I remember the way Daniel stood in the center of the living room, my living room, his face flushed with anger, his grip tight around a stack of papers he waved like a threat. He looked at me the way a stranger looks at an inconvenience, not the way a son looks at the mother who raised him. And then, with a bitterness I didn't recognize, he spat out the words that would split my heart clean in two. "You're useless now, Mom. You don't work, you don't contribute. This is my house, and I need space for my family. You should leave. Today." For a moment, I just stood there, unable to move. It wasn't the insult that froze me, it was the laugh that followed. Cold. Sharp. Cruel. A sound I had never heard from him before. Behind him, Tiffany crossed her arms with satisfaction, her smirk growing as if she had been waiting for this moment. "We've been patient," she said, her voice dripping with superiority. "It's time for you to find a retirement home or something. People your age can't just freeload forever." Freeload. The word hit me like a slap. I felt my breath catch, my heartbeat thudding painfully in my chest. I helped them move into this house. I paid for the down payment when they couldn't. I watched their child, cooked their meals, cleaned their rooms, supported them in every way I could. And yet, here I stood, being dismissed like a broken piece of furniture. Then Daniel raised the papers higher, as though they were proof of my worthlessness. "These documents show the house is in my name. So I'm asking nicely, leave on your own, or we'll involve legal steps." I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I simply looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time I realized just how far he had drifted away from me. But even through my shock, a truth pulsed quietly inside me. A truth he knew nothing about. Something that would turn this moment on its head. So I asked, in the calmest voice I could find, "Are you sure those papers say what you think they say?" Tiffany scoffed. Daniel bristled. The air tightened, sharp and dangerous. "Yes, Mom," he barked. "You're done here." But as he said it, I saw it, a flicker of doubt, a tiny crack in his certainty. A seed of panic that would only grow from here. "Stay with me till the end, because what happens next will shock you. And if you love emotional revenge stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more. My name is Marlene, and this is my story. Betrayal never begins with shouting. It begins with whispers, with tiny shifts you don't notice until the ground finally breaks beneath you. And that's exactly where this story truly begins. Before everything fell apart, my life was peaceful, soft, even. I was 12 years into widowhood, and though the loneliness still echoed at night, I had learned to fill my days with gentleness. I was a retired school librarian, the kind who still alphabetized her spice rack and kept bookmarks in every coat pocket. My voice was quiet, my movements careful, and my heart, maybe a little too open. My pride and joy were my 2 children, especially my youngest, Daniel. He had always been the affectionate one. When he was little, he'd cling to my skirt at every school drop-off. After his father passed, he became even closer, checking if I'd eaten, fixing the squeaky back door, calling me just to say goodnight. I thought the bond we shared was unbreakable. My days were simple but full. I tended to my roses each morning, humming old songs as I trimmed away the dry petals. On weekends, I baked bread, the smell of fresh dough was comforting in a way words never could be. And for my grandson Ethan, I crocheted tiny sweaters with wooden buttons shaped like stars. I showed love the way I always had, with warm meals, mended shirts, and an open door. When Daniel and his wife, Tiffany, started struggling financially after Ethan was born, helping them felt natural. I had recently downsized and sold my old home, so I used part of the savings to put a large down payment on a better house for them in a safer neighborhood, with a backyard big enough for Ethan to run around in. Daniel was over the moon grateful. Tiffany, polite, but distant, as if gratitude didn't quite fit comfortably on her tongue. But still, those were warm years. Family dinners where everyone squeezed around the table. Evenings spent with Ethan on my lap, watching the same cartoon episodes he loved so much he knew the lines by heart. Birthdays filled with laughter and homemade cakes. Back then, I genuinely believed the house was a new beginning, a foundation for a happy, secure life for all of us. Yet even in those golden days, little cracks flickered under the surface. The way Tiffany stiffened whenever Daniel complimented my cooking. The irritated sighs if I offered advice. The subtle eye rolls I pretended not to see, and Daniel pretended not to notice at all. I didn't understand then. I didn't want to. I thought love was enough to hold a family together, but life has a way of peeling back illusions, one thin layer at a time. And it started with something so small, so subtle, I almost ignored it. Almost. I started noticing the first cracks in the life I thought was perfect long before anything exploded. At first, they were small, almost invisible, and I convinced myself I was imagining things. Daniel began snapping over little things: a misplaced book, a dish left in the sink, a question asked too many times. His patience, once endless, was gone. He would furrow his brow, mutter under his breath, and storm off as if I had done something unforgivable by simply existing. I told myself he was tired, stressed with work and family. I tried to shrug off the unease. Tiffany's remarks grew sharper, though wrapped in a sweet, smiling tone that somehow made them sting more. One evening, as I washed a few dishes after dinner, she leaned against the counter and said, "Oh, Marlene, you don't have to wash the dishes. You're old, it'll take you too long." I blinked, confused. "I don't mind, it's just a few plates." Her smile tightened. "Exactly, it's fine. Just relax. Stay in your lane." Daniel chuckled awkwardly, but his laugh carried no warmth. I forced a smile and returned to the sink, pretending the comment hadn't pierced me, even as my fingers trembled slightly. Other signs followed. The Wi-Fi password was changed, and no one told me. When I asked Daniel, Tiffany answered with faux innocence, "Oh, you use the internet? I didn't know you needed it." I figured older folks don't really understand technology. The sweetness of her words contrasted sharply with the coldness beneath them, and I felt my chest tighten. I couldn't understand why they were edging me out of my own home, why my presence suddenly felt like an inconvenience. Trips, plans, dinners all organized without me. I learned about vacations from Facebook photos. I heard about new routines and special outings through Ethan, who would innocently mention, "Mommy and Daddy went to the zoo today." My heart sank. Then Tiffany's casual comment cut deeper than any yell could. "Well, it's been 6 months since you moved in, right? That's a long time for anyone. But I guess you're comfortable here." I swallowed the sting and smiled, pretending nothing had hurt. But that night, the whispering behind the closed bedroom door almost shattered me. I froze in the hallway, listening to fragments of conversation. "Tell her, not a hotel, she needs to." Footsteps approached before I could hear more, and the sound of the door closing left only silence and a hollow ache in my chest. I told myself it was nothing, a misunderstanding. Yet deep down, I felt the first real tremor of the storm that was quietly gathering around me. From that point, Tiffany's behavior began to shift in ways I couldn't ignore, though I tried. She moved through the house as if it were her own kingdom, telling me how to fold laundry, how to scrub the counters, even the order in which I should prepare dinner. She spoke with a kind of instruction that felt sharp-edged, like I was being corrected rather than helped. It was subtle at first, the smallest hints of control, but over time it became impossible to dismiss. When friends or neighbors came by, she transformed into a completely different person, the sweet, patient wife, heroically tolerating their old mother-in-law. "Oh yes," she'd say with a gentle smile, "we offered her a room after her health scare, we just wanted to help her feel useful again." I forced a laugh, but inside, my chest tightened. I'd never had a health scare. Her words were a lie. A weapon disguised as concern. Daniel changed too. He became quieter, more distant. Conversations that once flowed freely were now interrupted by glances at his phone or quick exits. He came home late, sometimes not at all, and I felt the space between us growing, though he still carried the same face I'd known for decades. One afternoon, I walked into the study to find him sliding papers hastily into a drawer. He forced a smile. "Oh, Mom. Didn't expect you." His tone was off, nervous, distracted. I didn't ask. I didn't want to push him, but unease settled into my chest like a weight. And then there were the questions Tiffany asked, ones that seemed ordinary until I realized how pointed they were. "How much did your old house sell for again?" she asked over coffee. "Do you still have savings?" Her next question made my stomach drop. "Did you ever write a will?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Every word pressed against my sense of security, though I couldn't yet name the threat I felt. I told myself Daniel would never hurt me. My sweet boy. My child. But the pieces didn't fit the picture I had painted in my mind. There was a strategy forming in the background, a plan I hadn't seen. The first clear sign of danger came when I was dusting near the hallway phone. Tiffany's voice floated through the air, low and confident. Don't worry, once everything is finalized, the house will officially be ours. I froze. My hands stilled. The words repeated in my mind. The house will be theirs. My house, the house I helped buy, the house I had poured love into, it was being claimed as if I had no rights at all. Something was very, very wrong. And I had a growing, terrible certainty that the life I knew was about to unravel completely. After that moment, a quiet, heavy loneliness began to settle over me, one that I couldn't shake no matter how busy I kept myself. Each day, I moved through the house like a shadow, present but unseen, performing chores, making meals, tidying rooms that weren't truly mine. I felt invisible, a ghost in my own home. Daniel's smiles became rare, his patience thinner than air. Even Ethan, sweet as he was, seemed to sense the tension. He'd ask for a story, and I'd notice the flicker of hesitation in Daniel's eyes, a silent reminder that my presence was somehow a burden. I tried to brush it off, but it stuck, a cold weight pressing against my chest. Tiffany's sharp comments, once occasional, were now constant. Careful, Marlene, that's not how it's done. Oh, you didn't know that. Let me show you, you'll ruin it if you do it yourself. She smiled as she spoke, but the smile never reached her eyes. I would nod, forcing myself to comply, while my stomach coiled with quiet rage and helplessness. I spent nights alone in the living room, rocking gently in my armchair while Ethan slept upstairs. My thoughts replayed every interaction, dissecting every word, wondering if I had done something wrong, anything at all. My body ached from the tension, my hands trembled as I folded laundry, and a low, persistent knot of anxiety sat in my throat. I caught myself crying quietly into towels after dinner, not wanting Daniel or Tiffany to see. I had always believed that a mother's love could weather storms, that the bond between parent and child was unbreakable. But now, each small betrayal, the whispered comments, the hidden plans, the sly insinuations felt like invisible knives carving away at my heart. There were moments I questioned myself. Was I imagining it? Was my memory faulty? Was I simply too sensitive? But deep down, I knew. I could feel the distance growing, the isolation spreading like a silent poison through the house I had built with love. One night, I sat on the porch, looking at the dim glow of the street lamps, and whispered to myself, I can't keep pretending this is normal, something is wrong. Something has changed, and I don't know if it can ever go back. The air was still, heavy with anticipation. And somewhere deep inside, a spark of resolve began to flicker, a tiny ember that would grow stronger the longer the betrayal went unchallenged. The subtle cuts and whispers grew sharper, more open. No longer were Tiffany's barbs hidden behind forced sweetness, they were now edged with certainty, spoken aloud as if I were the intruder in my own home. One evening, she stood in the doorway of the kitchen, arms crossed, and said, Marlene, don't you think it's time you gave us some space? You've been here for months. You're comfortable enough, right? Her words weren't a suggestion. They were an accusation, delivered with a smile that felt like glass. Daniel didn't intervene this time. He sat at the table, quietly scrolling through his phone, eyes flicking up occasionally, but his face was blank. The son I once knew, the one who would defend me without hesitation, had disappeared. I felt my chest tighten, a burning weight of betrayal settling over me. I realized then that their plan, whatever it was unfolding in slow motion, carefully orchestrated. Small humiliations became daily rituals. I was relegated to the corners of conversations, excluded from plans I had once helped organize. One afternoon, I overheard Tiffany on the phone, her voice sugary yet clipped. Yes, we're doing the dinner party tomorrow, but Mom won't be coming. It's better that way. She laughed lightly, but there was a cruel edge to it, as if she was savoring my exclusion. Even Daniel's behavior had changed. He snapped over trivial things, dismissed my advice, and closed doors on me literally and figuratively. Papers disappeared, questions were met with irritation, and my suggestions were ignored. It was as if every small act of kindness I had shown, every sacrifice I had made for them, had been turned into proof that I had no place in their lives. The final straw came one evening when I went to tuck Ethan into bed. Tiffany met me at the staircase, her arms folded, voice cold. "You've been here long enough. Everyone's tired of accommodating you. Don't forget, this is our house now." I froze, her words echoing in my mind. Our house. Not Daniel's and mine, not ours together, not the home I had built with love and sacrifice. Suddenly, the years of subtle manipulation crystallized into something sharp and undeniable. They had been pushing me out, step by step, teaching me to shrink, to doubt myself, to feel invisible. I retreated to my chair that night, Ethan asleep in his room, Daniel gone out for work, and Tiffany humming in the kitchen. I felt the walls close in, suffocating me with the weight of everything I had once believed was unshakable. My chest ached, and tears pricked my eyes, but anger began to rise alongside the hurt. This wasn't just disrespect. It wasn't just distance. It was a deliberate, calculated effort to erase me from the life I had built. And in that silent, suffocating moment, I knew that if I didn't act, they would succeed. Something inside me hardened. The quiet ember of resolve, buried under months of pain and betrayal, now burned brighter. This was no longer about being polite, or patient, or invisible. It was about survival, about reclaiming what was rightfully mine. The storm wasn't just approaching, it had arrived. And I was finally ready to face it. It all came to a head one evening, the moment I had been dreading but had also been bracing for without fully admitting it. I walked into the living room, hoping to find a quiet evening with Ethan, only to see Daniel standing in the center of the room, red-faced, papers in hand. Tiffany leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips. I froze, the weight of every small betrayal crashing down at once. "You're useless now, Mom," Daniel snapped, his voice sharp and jagged, stabbing the air with each word. "You don't work, you don't contribute. This is my house, and I need space for my family. You should leave. Today." I felt my heart stop, not because of the words themselves, but because of the cold, unfamiliar laugh that followed them. A laugh that didn't belong to the boy I had raised, the son who used to comfort me after nightmares, who used to sneak me cookies when he thought I wasn't looking. Behind him, Tiffany folded her arms and added with a cruel sweetness, "We've been patient. It's time for you to get a retirement home or something. People your age can't just freeload forever." Freeload. The word cut deeper than any scream could have. My hands felt clammy, my chest tight. I had helped them move into this house. I had paid for the down payment. I had watched over Ethan, cooked meals, washed dishes, cleaned rooms, supported them in ways no one saw. And now, I was disposable. Daniel raised the papers higher, shaking them like a weapon. "These documents prove it, this house is under my name. So I'm asking nicely, leave on your own, or we'll involve legal steps." I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I just stared at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I realized how far he had drifted from the boy I had known. But beneath the shock, a quiet truth pulsed inside me, a knowledge he had no idea existed. A truth that would turn this moment upside down. I spoke softly, deliberately, letting each word hang in the tense air. "Are you sure those papers say what you think they say?" Tiffany scoffed. Daniel's brow furrowed, his confidence beginning to waver ever so slightly. The air felt taut, ready to snap. "Yes, Mom," he said sharply, "you're done here." But even as he spoke, I saw it, a tiny crack in his certainty, a momentary flicker of doubt. The kind of doubt that, if nurtured carefully, could grow into panic. The same spark that had begun to form inside me over the past months of betrayal now roared to life. For the first time in months, I felt a wave of clarity wash over me. This wasn't just anger. This wasn't just hurt. This was the breaking point. And as much as it terrified me, it also awakened something long dormant. I straightened my shoulders, my voice steady despite the turmoil. "I'm not leaving. Not like you think. Not today." And in that moment, the quiet ember of resolve ignited into a fire. I knew exactly what I had to do. The storm was no longer approaching, it had arrived. This was the moment I knew I had to do something. After that night, I stopped pretending. The fear, the confusion, the hurt, they were still there, but now they were accompanied by a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I began watching, listening, paying attention to every word, every movement. I noticed the patterns, the little slips of arrogance, the tiny hints of their overconfidence. And I realized they had no idea just how much I knew, no idea how carefully I could turn their own actions against them. I started quietly reclaiming control. Not with anger, not with confrontation yet, but with observation. I checked the documents again, verifying every clause, every line. I called old contacts, financial advisors, and lawyers I had known for years. Every step was deliberate, every move precise. I wanted justice, but justice that was earned, not chaotic vengeance. Then came the subtle maneuvers. I began contributing accidentally to decisions they thought they were making. I offered suggestions that seemed innocent, only for them to fold into traps that exposed inconsistencies in their claims. Tiffany began to grow frustrated, snapping at Daniel over details I had nudged him toward. Daniel himself started second-guessing the papers he had once waved so confidently, questioning the clarity of ownership, the signatures, the dates. The most satisfying moments were quiet, private victories. Watching Tiffany fume when a plan she thought was foolproof unraveled in small, almost invisible ways. Seeing Daniel's confident posture wobble when he realized that a simple misstep could expose him. They had underestimated me. They had assumed age and love made me powerless. And then, the truth came out. A meeting, a careful presentation of facts, documents in hand. I revealed everything, the original contracts, the financial trail, the proof that the house had been bought with my money, not theirs. Tiffany's smile froze. Daniel's face paled, his jaw tightening as he read through the evidence. The satisfaction wasn't in humiliation, it was in recognition. They had treated me as expendable, invisible, useless. Now they had to face the reality. I was neither. I was the owner, the architect of the life they had tried to claim for themselves. Their arrogance, their manipulation, their cruelty had all been carefully unraveled. For the first time in months, I breathed freely. The house was mine, the truth undeniable. And as Daniel and Tiffany slunk away under the weight of their own mistakes, I felt a quiet joy, not in revenge for its own sake, but in the justice that finally balanced the scales. I had been patient. I had been gentle. But I had not been powerless. And they would never forget it. After the confrontation, the house felt different, lighter, freer, as if the walls themselves were breathing alongside me. Daniel and Tiffany no longer carried the confidence they once wielded so arrogantly. They avoided eye contact, their footsteps quieter, their words clipped and careful. Every corner of the home, once heavy with tension, now resonated with a calm I hadn't felt in months. Daniel tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but I saw through it. The casual greetings were hollow. The forced smiles didn't reach his eyes. The sense of entitlement that had once been his armor had been stripped away, replaced by the uncomfortable awareness that he could no longer dismiss me or my place in this house. Tiffany, too, had changed. Her once smug expressions now faltered when she noticed me moving through rooms with quiet authority. Every suggestion she made was weighed against the undeniable truth I had revealed. This house, this life, this home, had been built with my hands, my sacrifices, and my foresight. There was no claiming it from me. Even Ethan seemed to sense the shift. He laughed more freely, clung less anxiously to Daniel, and came to me without hesitation. Our bond, strained by tension and silent arguments, now felt restored. I realized how much love and care could persist despite chaos, and how a child, innocent and observant, could sense justice being served before words were ever spoken. The weight of months of betrayal lifted slowly, replaced by a quiet, steady pride. I didn't gloat, and I didn't celebrate. My satisfaction was in the restoration of balance, the acknowledgement that truth, patience, and careful planning could overcome deception and manipulation. I had weathered the storm and emerged not broken, but stronger. Daniel and Tiffany eventually moved forward, but under a new understanding. The arrogance, the cruelty, the false claims, they would never define me or my home again. I regained not just my place in the house, but my peace of mind, the knowledge that justice had quietly but decisively found its mark. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to sit back, breathe, and simply exist in a home that was truly mine, free from the shadows of betrayal. Looking back, I realize now that betrayal doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It slips in quietly through small comments, subtle exclusions, and smiles that don't reach the eyes. And sometimes, those we love most are the ones who will test us in ways we never expected. But the hardest lessons often bring the clearest truths. I hope my story reminds you to pay attention to the little cracks, to trust your instincts, and to never underestimate your own strength. Love and patience are powerful, but so is knowing when to stand firm, when to protect yourself, and when to reclaim what is rightfully yours. I learned that standing up for yourself doesn't make you unkind, it makes you whole. Life has a way of revealing character, both in ourselves and in others. And while I wish I hadn't had to experience the pain, humiliation, and quiet heartbreak, I am grateful for the clarity it gave me. I am proud of the resilience I discovered, and I am grateful for the life I was able to restore, not just the walls and furniture of my home, but the dignity, respect, and peace that had been quietly stolen from me. Never underestimate the quiet power that comes from knowing your worth, trusting your instincts, and taking action when it matters most. For me, the house stands as a reminder: loyalty, love, and patience are invaluable, but so is standing tall when betrayal tries to steal everything you've built. And now, finally, I can breathe.